Go to muscleupdetailspray.com and pick you up some merch.
What up? Big Herc 916, and you're tuning into another edition of Muscle Up. Yeah, where I talk about nothing but cars, and I got a special treat for you today. I got a 69 Camaro that is fire. And when you see this thing, man, woo, man, this is what dreams are made of if you're a muscle car guy. So, hey, lock your channel in, subscribe, hit that like button, and let's get into it. My guy here, Will, and he has a sick 69 Camaro. I'm telling you, this thing is ridiculous. It's like a old school muscle car, supercar, and we're about to get into it. So, Will, man, tell the people a little bit about what we have here, man.
So we have a 1969 Camaro that came home, pretty original. It's an LA-born car. It was yellow. I believe it had a 302. Drove it home from Florence about 10 years ago. And took it all apart down to the bare metal. Started with a frame-off restoration. And that is the finished product, but it was about 8 years worth of work.
All right, well, let's go take a look underneath the car and kind of see what you guys did to it, because this is where a lot of the magic happens, and a lot of people, they think just putting a big motor in the car and going is what you do, but I know from building cars that it starts with a chassis, and this is one of the most important aspects of any old school build. So can you kind of break down what you guys did to this as far as underneath?
Yeah, we started with the Detroit Speed front end, and then we married it with the Heights rear end, which is the independent rear end. We wanted the performance out of it with the independent suspension. So they put that together in a shop in Michigan, and they also added some more metal to reinforce everything with a 12-point cage, which is made from chromoly.
And for those who don't know, what is the brake setup, man? I know it's considered a what now?
So these are inboard brakes, much like that they run on the Jaguars.
And what is the coilovers you're running in the back?
I'm sorry, the coils?
The coilovers, are those?
They are, so the coilovers, I'm not sure. They're adjustable, I know. And they also have the, what's it called?
They're like three-way or two-way adjustable?
They're adjustable.
They're two-way adjustable, they're JRI with a hydraulic lift system.
Okay.
So that's the key, is there's a hydraulic lift on the back end and the front end. So there's a hydraulic pump in the trunk that controls everything. The car goes all the way down onto the tires.
And for those who don't know, JRI are some of the best in the business. They've been involved in racing. I've heard that name before. They're very prominent on the racing circuit. So this is the best of the best right here. I mean, just looking underneath here, and the subframe, the connectors, they're stiffing the frame up, the chassis, the lines. If you look how the lines are ran, this is what you have like boutique shop stuff, man. This is not off the shelf. I mean, and it takes a lot of time to, when you do the proper lines and everything to make it look clean. It's not just thrown together. I've seen a lot of builds, and you can tell a lot by the brake lines, the fuel lines, the different lines that's set up on a car, what was put into it. I mean, just look at these headers, how tight they are in there, but how clean it is. And I mean, how's the handling on this thing with the front end you have on it right now?
The handling is actually amazing. It's probably equivalent to a brand new car you'd buy today, like a Corvette, Mustang, or Camaro. Wow. This thing just handles like it's on rails.
Now, did you have to get a particular oil pan because I know with my car and my Chevelle, I had to get just for the clearance for the steering and radius and stuff. Did you have to get a special oil pan? Or?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we did have to make sure the oil pan was up higher. So that this is a different one by Holley, and so I think it might hold a little bit less unless they but it definitely hung down too low, so it was replaced.
And what transmission are we running here?
This is a T56.
Okay, T56, 6-speed.
6-speed manual.
And did you, as far as your drive shaft, is this like a special drive shaft or?
We did purchase it. I can't remember if it's fully custom, but it is able to handle 1,000 horsepower.
Wow.
So I can't remember if they made it exactly for us or if it was one they've made before for other cars.
And then you got the Borla exhaust, and what are your gears in the rear end?
411 gears. 411 gears in the rear end.
And what fuel system are you running? I mean, I know it's aftermarket to supply all this fuel. What do you?
We should have taken the tank and replaced, unwelded it, and actually made it larger, but it is just the original tank, 15 gallons, 16 gallons. There's 2 fuel pumps inside of it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we were having some issues sloshing left and right on the track. So they took it down and put in, I believe it's 2 fuel pumps instead of 1, and they're pretty high powered.
You know what fuel pumps you guys running? Aeromotive, excuse me, Aeromotive, yeah. Yeah, they make some of the best in the business.
They do.
Man, this thing is this is art down here. I mean, I could just go back and forth looking at this, and just the cross members, everything is so clean, man. How long did it take to get, this situated? Because, when you're doing a chassis, man, I know there's a bunch of different chassis setups out there. There's Detroit Speed, there's, Ride Tech, there's, Roaster Shop, Art Morrison. I mean, how do you guys go about picking this particular setup for this car?
I'm not sure who was in business back then, but I know we chose this setup partially for the independent rear end for the racing ability of it. Okay. And Chris could tell you more, but yeah, I'm not sure we had the option of Art Morrison or the other full chassis setup. So, and that's where the full cage came. The 12-point cage, this car is as solid as it's going to be.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people, when I first started doing my build, I didn't really know a whole lot about, I knew about Art Morrison, I didn't know about Roaster Shop, but I know, there's frame racing kits you can get, different things to stiffen the car up and make it handle better. And a lot of people think, these old cars, they just throw in a bunch of horsepower, and if they don't reinforce the frame, you get a lot of twisting in the back as far as the body. And I know you said you even did something with the floor pans, right?
Yeah, and there's something else I want to mention about that performance enhancement. We did. We replaced both floor pans when we had the car completely apart just because they were weak and they were thin. We also replaced the roof, again, just thinner metal that had been worn away by water wear over the years, and the floor pan in the trunk. And then when we were on the way to a show in Ohio, the 50th anniversary of the 69 Camaro, we had the car strapped down and we wound up bending. There's 2 pins, I think, that come directly out that hold this rear end together. I have some pictures that I could show you on my Instagram account. They bent upwards, so the whole car wound up sitting lower. And it was just from being strapped down so hard in the trailer all the way to Ohio that when we got home, we brought it to a shop and said, we don't ever want this to happen again. They reinforced everything that attached in the entire rear end and put stronger bolts in, a lot more metal. So this thing is not going anywhere now. It is going to give you maximum performance with how they restructured it.
Wow. Yeah, this is a work of art, man. I mean, I'm a big, like I said, I love muscle cars. I grew up around just old schools and just seeing, when I first seen your car, man, I'm like, dude, I got to get an interview with this car. And this is a sick setup. And what brakes you said you're running?
There's bare brakes in the front, and I believe this came with the Willwood brakes that we have yet to replace with bears, but we're going to ask them for a sponsorship. Yeah. There is some extra metal work that you can see down here that you can't see from the top, which we finished the siding here. It actually does kind of, just make the car look completely finished because the old cars just had the exposed pinch welds. Okay. Like I said, we should have made it extra fuel area, but we finished it with metal. There's an extra piece of metal down here that kind of hides the frame. You can see the side of this car, the frame of this car from the side. That was one of the design flaws. They didn't drop the outside body enough. So we added a little bit extra metal there. We actually lengthened the front quarter panel forward, I believe, 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches, making it roughly 2.5 in the back clearance and 2.5 in the front, allowing us to run a larger tire than any other Camaro. And then the front end, which you'll see when we bring it down, actually is completely rearranged. But this was a tunnel metal work, obviously getting rid of the original holes that were here. We moved the lights out. We opened up the whole front end so you could get a lot more airflow through there. Frenched all the bumpers. And then up top, when we get the car down, I'll show you, we got rid of all the drip rails and we added just a lot of metal work.
Are you also running like a trans or oil cooler? Or?
Are we running an oil cooler? No oil cooler, just extra fans. We couldn't fit, we were gonna try to run a chiller system for when the car was sitting idle.
And what does it typically run at when you're like in traffic or idle?
138, 140,
Oh, shit.
and that's in the heat. That's in the heat, yeah.
Man, and we're out here in the AZ, so you definitely want to have that under situation. That's
Yep.
really good, man.
You need it. In the cold weather, obviously it runs like 118.
Okay. Yeah, that's optimal right there. Which,
We added an extra fuel pump too, so it's got an extra 2 quarts in there when you want to hammer on it and race. You just flip a switch and it opens it up. Oil tank.
yeah, this is sick, man. Let's get it down so we can show the people the magic under the hood, man.
Absolutely.
So this is where all the magic happens, man. Man, what made you go with this motor setup, the LS 454?
It was available, it was powerful, and we knew that it would make, just a great sound coming out the rear end and underneath the car. So we went big because we wanted to just run it as it is with the Whipple right on top. So just go big or go home.
Now, a lot of people always ask me like, oh man, twin turbo over supercharger. What was your decision in going with a supercharger rather than like a twin turbo setup?
We watched a video with 2 sand rails, same motor, same setup, except one had twin turbos, one had a Whipple, and you could see the instant power and torque that was made from the Whipple versus the spooling effect with the sand. Obviously, it made it very obvious.
Okay.
So I think about 10 years ago, the turbos weren't where they are now, so that's why we went with the Whipple setup. Instant
Supercharged's
power.
better for the street too. It's just instant torque. It's a stick.
Okay.
So when he lets go of the clutch, it goes.
Now, I know when I was doing mine, I had to get special like belt set up because the 8 rib because it kept jumping. What did you guys do? Did you guys?
It's all Wagner.
Okay.
All bolt. It's all bolt on stuff.
So let's get into the actual motor and the breakdown, man. I mean, what can you guys tell me about like how this is set up? Because like I said, I've seen a lot of different Whipple setups, and to make it reliable, the drivability, what would you guys do differently with this setup?
Just a crate engine with a Whipple on it.
What ECU are you running? Are you running?
Runs a Holly Dominator ECU.
Okay.
So it's self-learning.
Okay.
It's a pretty straightforward setup.
And as far as like alternator and stuff, did you have to run a particular to maintain, as far as tire?
It's got a Mechman on it. It's got a custom built power steering pump from Turn 1. It's got a smooth boost controller. There's a lot of trick shit on there.
And as far as like flex fuel, or what are you running as far as octane?
Right now it's set up for 100 octane, but we can flip a switch and run it from regular pump gas to 100 octane to E85. It's just different tunes. It's got a switch inside that has 4 positions on it.
And what as far as injectors?
Enough to make it work. Couldn't tell you what they are.
I know because I remember that was one of the things I was trying to figure out with running the boost with a supercharger. What would be, as far as for not starving the car, but you don't want them too big because
it was dyno tuned over speed sports, so when they put it up on the rollers, they measure all that. They were smaller, we'd put bigger ones in. So it's just built to be driven.
Vintage air, Be Cool radiator. Is there anything I'm missing here? What
It's got Hydro Boost brake system on it.
Okay.
Other than that, it's like I said, it's just built to drive.
And you guys, the firewall's so clean, man. This thing is like, it would be like if you came out the factory today. And as far as the front clip, what front clip you guys running again?
It's a Detroit Speed front clip with a 12-point chrome moly cage, certified to run 9.0, I believe.
Yeah, this is beautiful, man.
It's got a electronic boost controller, water meth.
And how many pounds of boost do you run right now?
Running about 6.
Okay. Oh,
There's more there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but right now, for what you're putting down, this car is just perfect for the streets.
Yeah, it's dynoed out, 85-degree weather, 51% humidity. It dynoed out at 675 horse at the wheels with 670 foot-pounds of torque.
Oh, dude, that's
So just straight to basically you're shifting at about 5,500 RPM, and you're still pulling straight through. Like you wouldn't even know when you're going to redline it. So I've redlined this car. We built it so you can't blow the motor.
Wow.
But yeah, you can redline it every single time and still be pulling in any gear. If you want to take a look just down here at the front end, this is how we feed all that air in there. We put 2 more fans in last year, and obviously rearranged that whole front end so it does jam air straight through that radiator.
Wow, that's a hell of an engineering feat, man. I mean, did you guys like map all this out, or was it just kind of like you went along with the build that you kind of figured a lot of this stuff out?
We let the guy who's doing the metal work, whose name is Travis, we kind of let him have free reign on that. Gave him the ideas. We visited Michigan twice in Chris's hometown, which is next to the town we built it in. And yeah, when we gave him the idea, especially on the gills on the side, the French bumpers, rearranging the front end, we kind of let him just have free reign and knew that he was going to come out with an awesome design and good measurements for what it needed.
Now, for that carbon fiber front spoiler, is that aftermarket, or is that a custom one-off, or?
That was aftermarket. I can't remember. I think we purchased it from Anvil.
So, you know, what was the inspiration for that? I mean, how they integrated that spoiler into the trunk?
We basically wanted to keep the metal look to the car, also provide the aerodynamics that the spoiler provides. So we just decided to go with the metal, make it all one piece, and it does put a little bit of weight on the rear end, but not too much. And yeah, we built it out longer than the normal one, just to give it a little bit different look.
And they tucked the rear bumper too, correct?
Correct. The rear bumper's Frenched in as well.
And are those the original rear light bezels, or?
They're not. Those are aftermarket. I think we purchased them from Classic Industries, and they're just pretty standard. Fessler. They're Fessler lights.
Wow. Now let's see what it looks like inside the trunk. That's like some magic going on back here too.
So over the right side, behind this wall, is the hydraulic pump for everything. This is the catch can for it, which makes the car raise and lower on the hydraulic coilovers. Underneath here is your meth tank, which is for the meth injection when the boost comes on. It's right there. And then a little bit of storage in there. There is a back wall that goes on there, but we put a bigger battery in, so we're just going to relocate the amp. It does have a subwoofer behind the rear wall and all the crossovers and stuff that go with just 2 speakers in the doors, 1 subwoofer, and just a touchscreen Alpine. So just enough tunes.
Yeah, enough little bunkers. I mean, that exhaust is enough music right there.
The exhaust is better than the music, but you got to have something playing in the background. So yeah, and these are, with how heavy this deck lid is, they're still able to be held up.
And those are also aftermarket hinges, correct?
Yes, I think those are also Fesslers.
Wow. Man, so clean, man.
Now want to take a look at the inside of the car?
So, hold on. Door handles, those are aftermarket.
Door handles are definitely by Ken Diggett.
You know, those are infamous right there.
Yep, he actually did a 60-second walk around at the 69 Camaro show in Ohio, the 50th anniversary. We think it's to show off his door handles, but he did like the car and gave it some recognition, so it was nice as a builder.
Oh, man.
That's, as well known as him, to recognize the work that was done here.
And just the doors, man, so sick, and it's how they illuminate when you open them up in the right places.
Yep.
So what was the inspiration for the interior?
So the inspiration changed, actually. We were going to go with some gray leather, some Alcantara, some blue stitching, kind of like a BMW style interior, and the owner in the interior shop said, this car's too mean to do that kind of an interior. You need to go all Alcantara. And we were about a year ahead of everybody else, but I said okay, and he said, I'm going to do Alcantara everything. And it did come out really well.
It does. It looks super clean.
The dash itself was actually made out of cardboard at first, and we used the Corvette shape, kind of cockpit shape. And then I gave him the cardboard cutout in Michigan when I was done sitting in here on a bucket for about 2 hours, and they made the entire thing out of metal. So that whole dash is one removable metal piece.
And what about the center console here? I see you got all these switches, man, like it's a damn aircraft.
Yep, those are switches out of the new McLaren, and they control the windows, the sump pump, the door locks, trunk pop, and then raising and lowering the car.
And then you also got the vintage air here and fans.
Yep, vintage air. The AC in this car has to be ice cold just because it runs pretty hot in here with all this Alcantara. But yeah, the AC blasts cold air.
Man, they wrapped the roll bar, so you can't even really tell.
Yep, I asked them to do that with if they were going to finish it. You know, I wanted the complete finished look with the Alcantara, so they did wrap the roll bars in any spot you can see them. And these are Recaro seats. We just took the tops off just to give it a cooler look.
Nice.
And in the back, they did the same lighting. We kind of just said no one's ever going to sit back there, so just give us some buckets so we can put our helmet, our gear, race gloves, whatever we need back there, some water, you know, suitcase. And so they just did. They put in some storage buckets for us and left that back wall with that nice honeycomb design on it that they did for just this car. And that's where the subwoofer sits back there, so it just allows it to breathe a little bit.
Man, this is a work of art, man. Sick car. God. You got a cup holder, you gotta have a cup holder.
That was one of my requests. There's two back here, if you look just a little bit over the seat. I had them put those on there because that was my only request, is I want as many cup holders as you can give me, because I'm always drinking water and I always have something to put down, like my phone, a garage door opener. Gotta have places to put stuff. Yep, those were added at the last minute, so we had to change the dash. Actually, the metalwork in the dash was fabricated to fit those. Body modifications, we went over the deck lid metal, French bumpers. They did roll the inside of the wheel wells so the wheels don't get cut up. So they're
Now, what is the wheel setup on this car?
These are 345s in the back. It's tubbed all the way in as far as it'll go.
20s or 19s?
We went with, I think it's a 19 and an 18.
Okay.
So they are staggered. And they're the single lug, mono lug conversion kits on there.
Yeah.
Forge line wheels. These are the Nitto. I'm not sure what series they are, but they're just above slicks. And then this is one of the things that probably costs us a bunch of money, but it really gets a lot of notoriety, is instead of having the stamp gills like they did on the original car, we actually made them functional. So it does push air over the larger wheel well. Wow. Right towards those inboard brakes, because there is a hole behind this right here. How much air, we really don't know, but it's better than nothing, and it looks really cool.
And so how long did it take you just to do that?
I think Travis spent probably 2 weeks on just those two, because he sent us pictures along the way, and I realized how much we were racking up in man hours just on some of the metal work on this car. And I think you noticed the other parts of it, which are the drip rails are gone. So that was, the roof has been replaced. I think they cut it right about here. This is all the original glass on the car. They just kind of made its own casing, so the glass fit on here. I think they added a lip on the inside so it was all flush, and then just finished this. There was a little bit of metal work that needed to be done there. And then with the front, they got rid of the windshield wipers, and this whole scoop is just all metal that they added on there. So but the one thing they should have left is probably the vents because of the heat. Oh. The heat can only come out here now. Yeah. But they did have to cut the original glass to make it fit, and the same thing, they had to flush mount it, basically custom.
Now, how'd you come up with this color scheme?
I've always wanted a gray, so we took a color palette from Chevy that had probably over 150, 200 options, and right in the middle I found one that was about a mid-2000s gray that they put on a lot of their trucks. But I said I don't want so much flake in it, so we got it down to one color. Said, can you guys take out the flake but make it a tiny little bit darker, because it was just a little bit light in the sunlight. And I stood out there with a color pad and just literally looked at, you know, what would look cool. So it is a mid-2000 Chevy gray, slightly modified, less flake, a little darker.
Now, are these original side mirrors?
No, these are aftermarket. You'd see them, I think, on some of the 80s Camaros and some of the 80s other cars like the Pontiacs, but they're pretty standard. We just went with those because they looked aerodynamic and went with the car.
No, it does. It looks clean, man. I mean, like I said, if this was a car they built today, it would look like it came out the factory.
Yeah, and the last thing, I think we mentioned it before, but yeah, we cut the front fender right here in order to create this space right here. This space was about, it would be almost on the tire in the original car, but that gave us an extra, call it 3 inches to match the clearance in the rear, which gives us these 275 tires.
And are these 6-piston in front?
The brakes?
Yeah.
I believe so.
They look like it.
Yeah.
Man, work of art, man. I like the wheels too. That's like what is that, bronze?
Yeah, it's the bronze they had offered at Forge Line. So yeah, we did the bronze with the black barrels. and we thought it came out great. It was kind of we just literally held a picture of it up to the computer and made a guess when we did it, but it looked good. We thought it would look good, and it turned out to look really good.
Man, beautiful car, man. I'm anxious to take a ride in this thing, see how it goes, man.
I'm ready when you are.
All right. So Will, man, this is running 100 octane?
100 octane gas is what it's tuned for right now, so we can run full boost and full meth. That's what puts about the 700 horsepower at the wheels.
Wow. So you literally, with the 100 octane, what does that give you? Probably what, like 100 more horsepower?
When we dynoed it, as opposed to the 95, it was about 70 more horsepower, I think, with just the 100 octane gas. And with the meth injection and running the 2.9 Whipple at about 6 pounds.
And the thing is, like, it's so drivable, though. I mean, even with all that horsepower.
Oh, yeah. You ready?
Oh, shit. Woo! Damn!
There's your blue.
Wow. What gear were you in just now?
Third.
Shit.
Third gear is my favorite gear.
Man.
Just because you're going from about 60 to 100 real quick.
Oh my God,
It's all
man.
torque. 670 foot.
And dude, that thing was it's hooking, man. It wasn't spinning at all.
Yeah, 345s in the rear.
God.
And they're pretty much slicks, but they are street legal tires.
And you said you could actually tune this for E85 also, correct?
Yes, E85, limp mode, 95, and 100. It runs best on the 100.
Man, there's nothing like, man, the sound of a V8 like that spinning with a supercharger.
And I took the traction control off right now, so it does have traction control. And obviously the rev limiter, so you can't blow the motor, but I'll push it all the way to the max. If we get a good hole shot onto the freeway.
Yo, this is like makes you turn into a little kid up in here.
Yeah, at the same time, we're just in traffic right now, but it's totally drivable. The fourth gear, cruising at 3,000 RPMs, doing 53 miles an hour. So it's just you can actually cruise this car as long as you're not stuck in stop and go traffic in first and second gear.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of leg work.
And like you said, it runs at what, 180, 150, Tim?
Right now, saying the intake temp, there is something off about this right now, but yeah, it usually runs about 138.
Wow.
Intake temp.
That's super cool too.
And then sitting here, since we had those fans stay on the whole time, and it will, it'll bring it down when you're idling, bring it down to like 128. But yeah, about 140 as I think. When you hammer on it, it can get up into the 150 range if you're stomping on it, third, fourth gear, doing 100, 120.
That's still cool though, because I mean, dude, my car used to get up to like 200, man. And I'm like, oh shit, this is night and day as far as staying cool.
Yeah, I think when we reset the car, I think we just got to adjust the water meter now. Or I'm sorry, the intake meter. It's saying 200. It's not 200 degrees because it's reading at 1. Yeah, because there's safety features on that too. They blink red at you.
It gets on traffic so quick, man. It's like shit. Oh my God, that thing's insane.
I'll see if I can find a nice straightaway all the way back.
Oh my God. Have you had like any of the newer Corvettes or anything try to like come up on you?
Not the newer Corvettes yet, but this is equivalent of like a Dodge Demon. I would say it's probably neck and neck in the quarter mile with a Demon. I think it could probably throw down mid-10s with human error of the 6-speed, of course, and me getting off the line. But it's right in that range. I'd say I'd compare it to a Demon. So if a Demon would beat a new Corvette, I think I'd win.
Okay.
I know I could probably beat Ferraris and Lamborghinis at least in the quarter mile.
videos for Muscle Up, man. Big Herc 916.
Never settle for average has always been my motto in life. So I've been fortunate enough to get together with the brand NSFA and become a brand ambassador, because there's no room for mediocrity in life. So whether you're out here and you're an athlete, you're in entertainment, you're a business person, represent and pick you up a hat. And for those of you who are law enforcement, military, veterans, first responders, use code USA15 and get 15% off. Click the link in the description and never settle for average.
Hello, I'm Big Herc 916. Contact me for life coaching and motivational speaking.